What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Leek. Oh, when are we back at it with another reaction video, man? Now today we got an 8-hour stream. So if you missed out on this stream, I don't know what to tell you, but you gotta log in, tap that link in the description, and follow the Twitch. I'm live right now while you're watching this. We finna get into this YouTube's darkest videos number 8. Beezy with the sub! Shout out my boy Beezy, man. Spider Beezy in the chat. That's one of my mods. Shout out Beezy, bro. Chat. See, y'all could be having some fun like that. You know what I'm saying? Just slide on over, bro. Slide on over. Slide through. Well, today we finna watch YouTube's darkest videos number 8. So make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into this video. Huh? Let's go. Slide through. Whoa.
Fuck you, YT.
It was 2:46 p.m. when the ground began to shake.
Knock it off. Facts.
For residents of Anagawa, Japan.
Yo, whenever I start a YouTube video, never cuss in the intro, bro. Never cuss in the intro.
Earthquakes were nothing new, but this one was different. It carried with it a violence that none of the locals had ever felt before, and by the time the shaking had stopped, everyone in the city seemed to be left in a momentary state of shock. This was especially true for the nearly 160 Chinese workers and students that had recently moved to the area, with most having never experienced any.
Yo, this remind me of the earthquake that happened in
of these
what was
workers
it,
were a
Mainland?
tight-knit group of 20 women
Or like
who had recently
Thailand?
been hired as trainees at a company called Sato Susan, a company that sold fresh seafood. And having been at work at the time of the quake, they frantically ran out of the building and stood in the street, desperately trying to figure out what to do next, unaware of the fact that the real horrors were still yet to come.
Nah, Beezy is
In Japan, it's not just the earthquakes you have to worry about, but the tsunamis that often follow.
From now
And
on, I
usually,
have
the
to
bigger
gift
the
on the
earthquake,
computer
the
because
bigger
I
the
owe
wave.
Apple money on my
And
phone.
given that Anagawa was right on the sea and Sato Susan was directly on the shoreline, these women were now standing directly in the path of an impending disaster. Thankfully, their boss, Mitsudo Sato, was well aware of what was to come, and quickly he yelled to the women to seek higher ground.
Wait, how does
But
he
given
know
their
that
unfamiliarity
how does
with
he
the
know that
area,
an earthquake is
Sato
coming?
knew that he would have to be the one to lead them there. The group readily listened, and they quickly followed Sato as he led them up a set of stairs on a nearby hill, where they eventually reached a shrine that overlooked Anagawa and the sea. It was the highest point in the area, and should keep them safe from what would likely be a massive influx of water. And sure enough, as they neared the top, Sato's fears were already coming true. As the sea had drastically retreated, it was now beginning to push forward, and things were only going to get worse from here.
Is this an earthquake
But
or is
despite
this a
understanding
tsunami?
this, it wasn't a deterrent for Sato, as once he deemed the altitude safe enough for this
I
group
already
of
told
women,
y'all,
he
there's
then turned around and
there's
began to walk
aliens in the
back
water.
down the hill
When was this?
towards the slowly flooding city. The girls yelled at him, asking
Gotta be
where he was
recent.
going, which is when he revealed that down below in his home in Anagawa were his wife and his daughter, who were now directly in the path of this unfolding disaster.
Don Waller,
was going
appreciate
to
the
save
follow,
them.
bro. How you doing?
The girl screamed out to him, begging him not to go, as things had already become incredibly dangerous, but he didn't so much as turn his head as he stepped down onto the street and disappeared from their view.
I think it's a tsunami.
And it was at this time that one of those girls standing high atop the hill began to record.
Who need a sub? Beezy finna bless.
And he was going to say that
Hey, I'm gonna react to the Warriors game. What quarter are they in?
all my life, family has been super important to me. I love my family, but I also realize I don't know much about them, at least outside of my immediate family members, and specifically my grandfather, who I never got the chance to meet. And when thinking about this the other day, I went down a rabbit hole of trying to find out more information about my ancestors. And in doing so,
W sub! Hey, little DJ, I appreciate the follow. Hey, if you new in here too, exclamation point Discord, join up on the Discord, man. Join up on the Discord, man. They in second quarter. Y'all know I'm reacting to that tonight. Join up on the Discord, man. Mitsuro Satu Tsunami footage. Okay, Wait, no captions? We need some captions.
The
What they
footage shows
saying?
that the shoreline was no more, as the water had inundated the entire area as it slowly crept its way deeper and deeper into the city streets.
Bro. What's your thoughts on Ryan Garcia? Should I look at the highlights? I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it for me.
The women were understandably in a panic, trying to make sense of this ordeal that they were now given a front row seat
What's
to.
up, Mar?
And as they record, we can hear them desperately calling out for Sato. But at no point do we see
How y'all
him.
boys doing
we
in the
just know
chat?
that he's down there, somewhere. And as the desperation in their
I'm not gonna lie though, look. If my wife is stuck in a tsunami, if my wife and kids are stuck in a tsunami, are we gonna make it 2 casualties or 3? Let's be honest right now. Am I Superman? Do I think I'm Batman? Yeah. Are we gonna make it 3 casualties or 2? Come on, let's be honest right now, bro. I love y'all, but
please
let's be
increases.
honest, though. Let's be honest.
So too does the fury of the water.
Okay, I won't react to it. React to what? I would save you if you were stuck in a tsunami. I would save y'all too. Maybe in like GTA. I don't know what. If I ever see y'all in a tsunami, I'm going back for my
They
kid.
can only watch as
You can make
Anagawa, as
another
they
one,
knew
though.
it, was completely eviscerated.
Let's be honest. See, you could live on the legacy. If you pass away, then it's like, like. Everything could do it be in the vein of your daughter. I'm going back for a computer so I can boom. Now I paid $2,500 for the PC. Yeah, please don't spoil please don't spoil the Ryan Garcia or the Warriors game, bro. I'm reacting to the Warriors game today. 8-hour stream today. That's on lock. If my PC was stuck in it, the first thing I'm saving, any casualty, any world disaster, my PC. PS5 can go, my PC only. YB dropped, I've seen that.
And by this point, they realized that there was now essentially no hope for Sato.
Reaction on YouTube.
It was at this time that the women realized that despite already being at a considerable height, it still might not be enough. And so they ran even higher up the hill, desperately trying to get out of the path of this water.
Do a tier list based on who won the NFL draft? I'll do preseason, who I think is going to do good.
And as they did so, they noticed something down below.
Not sponsored, not sponsored.
Standing on a rooftop in the middle of this massive tsunami was Mitsuro Sato.
What the fuck? Wait, he actually might be Superman. Wait, do we know his location? How did he get up on a building?
The building that he stood on was once a full 2 stories off the ground, but was now just a few inches above the surface of the
How did he get there? Why does he look untouched?
water. The women again call out to him, this time even more
Aura.
frantically. But at this point, it was no use.
This
And
is
when the
Aura.
camera is taken off Sato for just a split second, we can hear just from the women's reaction the exact moment that he swept away.
Not gonna lie though, like why didn't he get on this building right here? This looked pretty safe though. Leek, what's your favorite website to goon to? Stop gooning in 2025.
The recording stops shortly after and restarts minutes later, revealing that the streets where the
Wait,
women
why
had
he just ain't get on this building right here, bruh? Yo, you would have been straight.
been standing just moments before were now fully underwater, and the buildings that once stood around them were now reduced to nothingness. In front of them was a sea of death, and had Mitsuro Sato not led them up that hill, then all of these women would have certainly been a part of it.
Yo, he saved the girls that was recording.
The date was
it.
March 11th, 2011, a day where Japan had been hit by its most devastating earthquake ever, with it ringing in at a magnitude 9.0, which in turn caused the nation's worst ever tsunami, as that day, 19,000.
So earthquakes can cause tsunamis? Oh my, bro. Wait, when was this?
Which in turn, most devastating earthquake. The date was March 11th, 2011, a day where Japan had been hit by its most
2011.
devastating earthquake ever, with it ringing in at a magnitude 9.0, which in turn caused the nation's worst ever tsunami, as that day,
No, hell no.
19,759 people would lose their lives, with Mitsuro Sato being one of them. But against all odds, his wife and daughter were not part of that death toll, as it's been reported
It's something that shifted the Tamayowick plates? What is that? What is the Tamayowick plates?
that they were later found alive and unharmed.
95K?
The devastation that occurred that day is incomprehensible, and all the footage of this disaster could warrant a place in this video, especially the footage of Anagawa, as you can see what it looked like before, during, and after. But what I found so interesting about this was all throughout this disaster were stories like Sato's, a man who risked his life to save 20 women that he hardly knew, and a man who gave his life trying to save his family,
What is that?
walking directly into the path of the worst
What is
natural
that?
disaster in modern Japanese
A plate?
history, all in an attempt to save the ones that he loved.
How would a plate
And I
cause
honestly
an
find it
earthquake?
quite beautiful that
Wait, how would a plate cause an earthquake? Is it if enough plates drop on the earth? If a plate, so if a lot of plates, so a tectonic. So what? Like a lot of plates have to drop on the earth at the same time? I mean, that makes sense. If a lot of plates drop on like a flat surface, because hey, I've been kind of wondering, is the earth flat? I'm not gonna lie. If enough plates drop on the earth at the same time, that could actually cause a rumbling. We got to do some more digging into that.
all in an attempt to save the ones that he loved. And I honestly find it quite beautiful that afterwards, these women adamantly shared his story and made sure that the world forever remembered Misuro Sato
That's real.
as the hero
That's
that
real.
he was.
That's real. My album
And of those
dropping soon?
160 Chinese migrants who worked in the
Solo
area,
or featured?
it was later reported that not a single one of them perished, which speaks volumes about the people of Anagawa, who so readily put others' lives before their own.
Fire marshal is investigating a blaze in Georgetown. 2 people found dead inside the home, and so
Wouldn't
far
it be
it's
a
not
tape?
known
This is
how
a
the fire
freshman.
started.
This is freshman GEO. What's that?
It was just past 5:30 a.m. on the 17th of February 2021 when residents of a small
2021, that's
neighborhood in
mad
Georgetown,
recent.
Ontario were woken by the sound of
Canada.
sirens blaring. One man frantically grabbed his cell phone and rushed outside to record the unfolding scene, where he was met
Geodude?
with a horrific
Freshman
sight.
Geodude? I know what Geodude is. This is freshman GEO. Geodude? From Pokemon? The little rock guy? Geography. Geography.
Rushed outside to record
I
the
know y'all be
unfolding
making
scene,
up words and
where he was met
sometimes,
with a
bro.
horrific sight. His neighbor's home was fully engulfed in flames. It must have happened quickly, as by the time rescue workers even arrived on the scene, there was already little hope of saving the house, or any of its occupants.
If there's ever a fire, PC's face.
It would take
first thing
hours
to
before
save
that blaze was finally quelled, revealing the charred devastation inside,
I already
as
told y'all there
firefighters
used
would
to be a
find the
fi- there
remains of
was almost a fire in
56-year-old
my
Christina
crib.
Rirak and 59-year-old Andrew Rirak within the home's garage. The cause of this fire was initially unknown, but quickly the situation was deemed suspicious when experts determined that the fire had started as a result of some sort of explosion that had happened within the
bang?
garage where the couple's
Send
bodies
me
were
the clip.
found. This was later confirmed by security footage obtained from a neighbor who lived across the street, capturing the moments when it suddenly ignited around
The fire
5:27
had, the
a.m.
car had to catch on
There was
fire.
clearly something off with this case,
I just
and things
gifted
only became more
Rakai
sinister following the autopsies of Andrew
Water
and
in the
Christina,
ocean?
which revealed that they hadn't actually died in that fire, and instead, both of them had been stabbed to death,
Whoa.
with Andrew also being badly beaten. This fire wasn't started to kill them, it was started to cover up their murder. And it did a good job of it too, as the scene was now left completely destroyed, with very little evidence being left behind.
Makes sense.
But there was something else investigators thought to check. That's security footage. The camera had been facing the garage where all of this carnage seemed to have happened, and so they thought maybe if they looked back far enough, it could at the very least show what had led up to this brutal attack. And so they rewound that footage, going back hours and hours, during all of which the garage had
Who was
remained
that?
perfectly still, until they got all the way back to 6:42 of the day prior, February 16th.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. I used to park in my garage, but I don't do that no more.
The film showed the moments that the couple had arrived home together inside of Christina's car, which Andrew had been driving that night, as he pulled uneventfully into the garage. This was the last time this couple was seen alive on camera, which on its own is disturbing enough.
Wait, we don't see nobody
But
go
as it
in
turns
though.
out, there was something far more unsettling about this footage, as it revealed the fact that Christina and Andrew weren't alone.
Huh? What if they were like millionaires or something? What the fuck?
The footage showed a tall figure, its features completely shrouded in darkness, almost as if it were a shadow, with this figure lying in wait out of sight on the side of the house, until right after Andrew pulls the car into the garage, when this person slips in behind them. It's impossible to say for sure if the couple noticed this person or not, but it appears that they likely didn't, as they both start to exit the vehicle, to which the figure then ducks down in an attempt to avoid detection. Until the garage door begins to slowly close. Either Christina or Andrew would make it out of that garage alive, as just seconds after this footage, they both would be brutally murdered by this unidentified person. The footage is terrifying and speaks to that innate fear in most of us, the fear of being followed, of being
I'm not
watched,
gonna
and attacked in the
lie.
moments where we least expect it.
I'm gonna be honest, bro. I go in and out through my garage a lot. This might have just made me stop. Who knows? I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm talking about I leave my house through my garage and I enter my house through my garage. This might have just stopped me.
It's
bro.
paranoia-inducing, and made even more off-putting by the fact that this clearly seemed to be premeditated. Whoever this was knew their schedule and had been waiting for them to arrive home, in a
He
place
just
where they knew they
ducked
wouldn't be
off
seen.
in the corner,
But by this point, their
bruh.
motivation was as unknown as their identity. Following the discovery of this footage, bits and pieces were released to the press in order to get the public's help in identifying this unknown assailant. It represented a rare instance of a killer being clearly caught on camera right before committing a crime, but that's also what made this case so frustrating, as despite the video capturing this person, none of their features were discernible at all.
Exactly, there's no way you can know.
Unsurprisingly,
who it
the
is.
footage didn't bring in any relevant leads, but it at the very least showed investigators that whoever this person
What's up,
was
Fred?
knew the couple, due to its obvious premeditation. Though when looking into both Andrew and
This is
Christina,
some
it was
Dexter
clear that
level?
neither of them really had any enemies in their life, with the
Nah,
exception
Dexter
of
clean.
one. Harrison Brown was a 27-year-old employee at a company called Rogue Transportation,
What you mean?
of which Christina happened to be the vice president of operations, and during his time there, Harrison was known to be abrasive and combative, with Christina often having to be the one to reprimand him, leading to Harrison resenting her. It isn't clear how police were tipped off about this strained working relationship, but they had somehow grown suspicious enough of Harrison
You
to
should
pay his
play Are
home a
You
visit,
Smarter Than a Fifth
and what they
Grader?
found
Alright,
inside
bro.
showed that
Yo,
this
you know I'm
resentment he
smarter
had
than a
towards
fifth
Christina
grader.
had actually morphed into a twisted obsession.
Obsession.
Inside, police found satellite images of the Rerack's home, along with the software on the man's computer and cell phone that showed that on the 12th of February, he had secretly attached a tracking device to Christina's car, and he had been tracking her movements for days, which is precisely how he knew when she would be arriving home. And as if this revelation wasn't damning enough, they would also find a broken knife in his garage that contained trace amounts of Christina's blood. It was obvious what Harrison had done, and when confronted with this evidence, there was nothing more he could say other than the truth. So he admitted he had grown a hatred for Christina because of the way that she had treated him at work, and he decided that he needed to get his revenge. That's when he purchased this tracking device and began obsessing over her movements, studying them before finding the perfect time and place to strike.
Nah, this
And on February
mad
16th,
stalker, bro. I ain't gonna lie, yo. This mad stalker, bro. YouTube's darkest videos. This mad stalker.
he waited outside the Rerack's home and snuck into their garage before attacking and killing them both. After the assault, Harrison would leave the home, where he began to grow paranoid about being caught, and so he returned to the house the very next morning to start that fire, with the hopes being that the blaze would cover up his tracks. Though thankfully, this didn't work, and after pleading guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of arson, Harrison Brown would be sentenced to life in prison.
Officer Fat Feaster's dash cam? What does that mean? Feasters. What the fuck is that?
It's the eve of Thanksgiving, 2015. Police officer Patrick Feaster sits in his cruiser parked alongside the road in the
Oh,
town of
shit.
Paradise, California, waiting for his first action of this uncharacteristically quiet night. His car was facing the direction of a well-known local cantina, which patrons were known to drive away from under the influence. And sure enough, as the clock approached midnight, the calmness around Feaster would be shattered by the sight of a car speeding out of the restaurant's parking lot.
Wait, what happened?
Be shattered by the from under the influence. And sure enough, as the clock approached midnight, the calmness around Feaster would be shattered by the sight of a car speeding out of the restaurant's parking lot. The car went unseen by Feaster's dashcam, but not by Feaster himself, as he took off, doing his best to catch up with the car that was now speeding
So he's
down the
chasing
road. Within
like
a few
a
seconds,
car
he
that
does,
just sped away on some weird
as the
shit.
car slowly comes into frame for the first time. Inside that vehicle was 26-year-old Andrew Thomas and his ex-wife, 23-year-old Darian Aaron. Andrew had been drinking heavily that night and was well over the legal limit, with his driving showing as much as he failed to pull over once Feaster approached him, resulting in a police chase that would only end up lasting just a few seconds.
Dang. Yo, I hate people that run from the cops because there's like your chances of getting away from the police, bro, is so low, bro. Especially in like the East. Yo, you're not getting away from the police in the East. I'm not gonna lie. Up on God, I'm down.
Just east of Black Olive.
Copy, roll over 2C, east of Black Olive.
As Andrew would drive his car directly into a median, causing the SUV to flip over violently before coming to a halt on its side.
Only cop chases in LA, those are the only ones you hear about.
In that instant, Darian was ejected from the vehicle, being thrown straight through the windshield and landing onto the asphalt, where despite still being alive, her injuries were likely unsurvivable. But Andrew, on the other hand, was still inside the vehicle, and he seemed to have been left relatively unharmed. As perhaps being boosted by adrenaline, he quickly tried to crawl his way out of the car in a desperate attempt to check on Darian, with Officer Feaster's dashcam capturing the entire ordeal.
This is sick.
Though just as Andrew attempted to do so, we see Feaster step into the frame, where he suddenly draws his gun, and without saying a single word, fires 2 shots at Andrew, with one of the bullets appearing to strike him, causing his body to go limp as he falls back into the car. It happened in a literal instant, so fast that it's clear Feaster had most likely accidentally discharged his weapon, as there was no attempt at communication before the shot was fired, with Andrew clearly posing no risk to him, as both of his hands were being used to hoist himself up. From the footage, this all seems to be a horrible accident, and one that Feaster seemed to recognize right away, as he rushed up to the car, pointing his flashlight at the man that he had just shot, staring at him for over 10 seconds, trying to make sense of what he had just done, before he finally snaps out of it, and uses his radio to call for backup.
Damn, bro. Damn. All right. Let's look at it, though. Let's look at it. So, bro that he shot basically ended his wife's life from being drunk and getting into a car chase and not pulling over. So, the bro that he just shot ended his wife's life by getting into a car crash. The cop shot the dude that ended his wife's life. Bro, this is a sick situation. This is a sick situation.
But this is when this already dark video starts to become much more disturbing.
What?
I've got an unresponsive female. I got a man in the
Yes,
car.
he was with his
refusing to get out.
wife.
When Feaster makes this call, he never mentions the shooting, and instead he states that the driver was refusing to get out of the vehicle. This is then followed by Feaster walking away from the man and pointing his flashlight to the ground, almost as if he was looking for something.
You're probably looking for a gun or something.
Copy, keep your cross on Black Olive.
Pearson.
Yeah,
Copy,
he's
Black
lying.
Olive,
He's
Pearson.
lying. He's lying.
With some theorizing that he was looking for his shell casings. Though right then, another officer arrives on the scene and begins to survey the wreckage.
Just her?
No, there's a man in the car refusing to get out.
Where, again, Feaster says that Andrew was refusing to get out of the car, making
he's
no mention of the fact
lying.
that he had just shot him. It's clear at this point what Feaster was trying to do. He was trying to cover up his accident, but this suddenly became more difficult when Andrew started to speak.
Okay, we got one. He's refusing to get out. Get out of the car, sir. You're not shot, sir. Get out of the car.
You're not
Andrew
shot.
Thomas was still alive, and had muttered to Feaster that he had been shot, but even to his face, Feaster denies it. Shortly after, Andrew then tries to tell the other cop what had happened.
This before body cams?
Come out of the car. The car is still on, and I don't want you to get hurt. Right up here.
What's up,
I was right
Choosy?
there. I saw it. Did you get shot at the cantina? Who shot you? The cop did not shoot you.
But understandably, this other cop wasn't believing him, as surely Feaster would have said something at this point. And so, the minutes start to pass. And after 5 full minutes, Feaster continues processing the scene like nothing had happened, with the other officer being left to theorize that Andrew must have been seriously injured and was likely in a state of shock, which is why he was making all of these strange claims about being shot.
He may be hurt in there. Yeah, I know he is. He's in shock at the very least.
From here, the footage cuts, and
The point of lying is like out the window. Autopsies, body reports, doctors. Yo, you're caught. What?
we're only left with the audio
like,
from that
this is
same
like
officer's
dumb
body cam,
lying.
as he attempts to get more information from Andrew.
Why would he not say? I mean, you could say like he was refusing to get out, or he looked like he was holding a weapon. At least, like,
Sir, I
this
need
cop
you to
is,
talk
like,
to me so I
dumb.
know you're okay. Sir, take a look at me. Did you bump your head?
But by this point, he had gone completely silent. 10 minutes later, the footage then cuts back on, this time to another officer's body cam, which shows that an ambulance had now finally arrived on the
They had body cams, bro.
scene, with medics first directing their attention to Darian,
He
who was in
probably
the
ain't
worst
turned
shape,
his
as she
on.
would tragically be pronounced dead shortly after. But despite all of these first
King
responders on the
Kales,
scene,
reset the
none
follow.
of them
How you
had
doing,
any
bro?
idea that the man inside that vehicle had just been shot.
Wait.
And she's on the scene in worse shape, as she would tragically arrived on the scene, with medic on, this time to another
What's
officer's
up, bro?
body
How you
cam,
doing?
which shows that an ambulance had now finally arrived on the scene, with medics first directing their attention to Darian, who was in the worst shape, as she would tragically be pronounced dead shortly after. But despite
Right,
all of
'cause
these first
Charlie
responders on the
Joe.
scene, none of them had any
Hey,
idea
you
that the
already
man inside
know.
that vehicle had just been
Okay,
shot,
Trey, nobody
and shot
say
by
it,
one of their
man.
colleagues.
Bang that green
And in these
flag.
moments, Andrew was slowly losing his life
It's
as
a
each
great
minute
day.
passed. It would take 11 full minutes before Feaster finally confessed.
You hold this scene, Manny, with me. We're going over to the cantina to find out if this guy...
Take a shot. I wasn't even pointing at him. Got it to go on.
Saying that he
I
might have
think
shot the
of
man,
shot
but he
him.
wasn't sure.
I've already known
And immediately
7
after
lyrics.
saying
I've
this,
listened to it 7 times. You and me both.
No.
I done reacted to it like
the
3
recording
times
is
over.
stopped, and the footage comes to an end. Sure enough,
Crazy
in that
is-
moment, Officer Patrick Feaster had in fact shot Andrew Thomas, with a bullet striking him directly in the neck. And the reason why he wasn't getting out of his vehicle was because that gunshot had left him fully paralyzed from the neck down. His condition was awful, and made worse by the length of time that it took.
One, this is a terrible situation in general. If he wasn't drunk, if bro that got shot wasn't drunk driving, trying to get into a speed chase and crashed, would have never happened. Never happened, bro. One thing I don't play about in life, bro, is drunk driving, bro. I don't care if you my friend, my girl, my homie, anything, bro. If you drunk, bro, I'm not riding with you, bro. I'm not riding with you, bro. Y'all YB fans crazy? Of course. Hey, man, King Yella, tell him, bro. King, tell it that boy, bro.
Took for him to receive
I don't care
proper
about
treatment.
none of that. That's my
And despite
goat.
fighting for weeks, Andrew Thomas would lose his life less than 1 month later due to that
Sheesh.
gunshot wound. Afterwards, Feaster admitted that he did fire his gun, but claimed that in the moment he wasn't actually sure if he had hit Andrew. But many found this hard to believe, as his gun clearly goes off while he's pointing it at Andrew, and he clearly gets a good view of him immediately after the fact. Not to mention the fact that Andrew literally told him over and over again that he was shot. But for many, by far the most incriminating moment was when Feaster appeared to be looking for his shell casings. And because of his actions,
Does he get booked
Officer
for
Patrick
it?
Feaster would be found guilty of manslaughter and receive a prison sentence of 180 days. A decision that was heavily contested but ultimately upheld. And while no one is defending Andrew Thomas's decision to drink and drive that night, Feaster's use of deadly force and his blatant attempt at covering it up make this footage harrowing nonetheless.
Both are in the wrong, bro. Both are in the wrong. Both are in the wrong. Both in the wrong. Like, when you think about it, bro, bro who was driving, like Andrew, yo, he was gonna go away for a long time. A long time, bro. And now, I don't condone cops killing nobody, of course. You know, I'm black. Cops couldn't kill nobody. What the hell? Yeah, I don't know, bro. Terrible situation all around. Hey, Warren Kick, appreciate the follow. How you doing, bro?
this for
almost the
real, bro. I
same
don't
thing
got
that
no problem with
happened.
giving back,
Nah,
bro.
that's
I'm the
nowhere
only one
near
out here with the
close
store
to
that's actually
what
giving back,
happened
you feel
in
me?
this
And I got
situation.
proof for sure.
It's May
Nowhere near.
2013.
Instant karma facts.
23-year-old Quamaine Wilson arrives at his local bank in Chicago, Illinois to deposit $20,000 cash, which he planned on giving out to groups of his most adoring fans.
Man, about to go get this $1,000 out for the fans, man.
I'm
Really,
already
I'ma
knowing
take
he
out
got
20,000,
robbed
man.
and didn't want to get the
Just
money
show
up.
people,
I'm already
you feel me?
knowing what
I'm on a whole
happened. It
different
happens
level
too
with
much.
To this point, Quamaine had carved out a respectable following on his YouTube channel, where he acted in a series called The Leek Story.
One word out your mouth, next your ass.
100K on YouTube. It's early YouTube too. Jeez.
Along with posting music he made under the name Young QC.
Out her thumb, but not until she's. I know she will. I'm gonna get you.
Based on his viewership alone, his success was apparent, and he wasn't shy about
5.6
shing off the
mil? I
wealth
can't
that
wait
he
till I hit
claimed
a
to have
mil on a
accrued as a
video,
result
bro.
of it, posting photos and videos
Not
of himself
playing.
flaunting large amounts of cash across his social media pages. But this video was by far his most boastful yet, as he would take that $20,000 and throw it into the air for all of his fans to fight over.
Oh yeah, he got robbed for sure. You can't do that.
With Quamaine clearly relishing in the opportunity to show off his riches, despite the fact that behind the scenes, things weren't quite as they seemed. The truth was, Quamaine had actually earned very little from his channel despite its viewership, with this being on account of his videos containing copywritten music, and the fact that he only had a dozen or so uploads. In fact, his social media flexing had started well before
What's
he
up with
even made
people
his first
following and
video,
not saying what's
as
good?
in reality,
Honestly, so I do that sometimes too. My reason behind it is, some people are just not a chatter. Some people are just a watcher. Does that make me feel some type of way? Hell no. Cause I do it too, bro. I'll follow somebody, but I don't want to take over for the fact. You feel me? Yeah, I just be lurking, bro. That's just how some people be. Yeah, hopefully they say what's up soon. Hopefully
all
they
of this
enjoy the
money was
stream.
coming straight from his mother, Yolanda Holmes. Having started as coming straight well before he even made that he only had a dozen or so uploads. In fact, his social media flexing had started well before he even made his first video, as in reality, all of this money was coming straight from his mother, Yolanda Holmes.
Yo, he was taking money from his
Having
mom?
started a successful business in Chicago, Yolanda made a great living for herself and Quamaine. And being her only son, Quamaine was given just about anything he could have asked for. She would buy him designer clothes, jewelry, and even the Mustang seen in this video.
What? She was having
But for
that?
Quamaine, it never seemed to be enough. He wanted to achieve a life of fame and riches, and he used his mother's finances to sell the illusion that he already had, asking her again and again to purchase him things that could help him sell this dream, until one day, it all came crashing down, when Yolanda would tragically lose her life. Just like that, Quamaine's entire support system had fallen out beneath his feet, leaving him without his mother and without the provider who was funding his entire life. But strangely, this didn't seem to stop his lavish online presence. In fact, his spending only seemed to increase after this, as this footage of him giving away money to fans actually took place after the death of his mother, which became extremely off-putting. But strangely, this didn't seem to stop his lavish online presence. In fact, his spending only seemed to increase after this, as this footage of him giving away money to fans actually took place after the death of his mother, which became extremely off-putting for law enforcement, as Yolanda hadn't simply passed away, and instead, she had been brutally murdered.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. No way.
Quamaine had learned something shortly before Yolanda's passing, that not only were his mother's savings entirely willed to him, but she had also taken out 2 life insurance policies, in which he was the sole beneficiary. And despite Yolanda giving him anything that he could have asked for, it seemed that by this point, Quamaine had simply grown tired of having to ask. And so, on September 2nd, 2012, he would offer his friend Eugene Spencer $3,500 to kill his own mother. Eugene accepted the offer, and that night he would travel to the apartment of Yolanda Holmes late at night, where he entered her room and shot her multiple times as she slept. At the time, her boyfriend had been sleeping next to her, and despite jumping up and doing his best to fight off the attacker, Eugene would eventually beat him unconscious before fleeing the scene.
Ungrateful ass kid.
Eugene would call Quamaine immediately after the attack to tell him that the job was done, but rather than feeling any sort of guilt, Quamaine instead had no emotion, and he simply stated, "Make sure the bitch is dead."
What?
And so Eugene went back up to that unit, this time brandishing a knife, and repeatedly stabbed Yolanda until he was absolutely certain she was gone. And with that, Quamaine Holmes was a rich man, and it only cost him the life of his own mother. For a moment, the crime had worked perfectly, The police were left with no concrete leads as to who might have killed Yolanda, and the public largely believed that it was her boyfriend, whom Eugene had knocked unconscious. But no one even thought to look at Quamaine. And recognizing that he was in the clear, his behavior grew brazen almost immediately.
Quamaine Wilson lost his mother to gun violence on November 14th.
My mother, she was a neighborhood woman. A guy entered her home, and murdered her, just to
Whole
steal.
time he's
As he went on TV to
knowing.
talk about his mother's murder, where he peddled the theory to the public that this was some sort of botched robbery. All the while, he showed no emotion. He wouldn't even wait a full week before depositing the money, as he took out $90,000 within just the first few days, and immediately began showing it off to his followers. And in this footage, where he gave away that $20,000, throwing it into the air as if it meant nothing to him, every cent of that had come from the death of his own mother, a death in which he was entirely responsible for. It would take over a full year for Quamaine and Eugene to be caught, with police largely being tipped off by his online antics. And in the end, Eugene was given a 100-year prison sentence, while Quamaine received 99 years,
Man, get out of life.
with his legacy now permanently
hell?
defined by his creation of one of YouTube's darkest videos.
Bro, that is sick. Your mom give you everything you could want, anything you ask for, anything you could imagine. Off of her own hard money, hard work, hard everything. You the only son. And just because you don't like asking, you do the worst, bro. That's sick, bro. That's sick. Oh, that's sick. I'm not gonna lie. You're not even supposed to look. You're not even supposed to give your kid everything they ask for though. Like you gotta learn. You like your kid has to learn how to like take the answer no. That's a fact. Your kid has to learn how to, like, you gotta learn how to say no to a kid, bro. Hopefully you made it to the end of this video. This reaction will be up soon, sooner than later. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. We did this reaction live, bro. Get to it before it upload. Gets on the next one.